So today we're going to talk about the different types of numbers. And you may be wondering, what do you mean by types of numbers? Well, yesterday when we were thinking about our base 10 number system, we were actually, when referring to the ones, tens, hundreds, etc., place values, those are whole numbers. We alluded to numbers to the right of the decimal point when we were looking at this structure, and those are introducing us to rational numbers. And so we want to talk about these different types of numbers, integers and rational numbers. And we're going to talk about the three models to represent fractions, and we're going to then define fractions. And if you're wondering, well, what do you mean? We just said rational numbers, but now you're saying fractions. Yes, that's where we're going now, right? Rational numbers are going to be both fractions and decimals. So what we want to talk about is our whole number system are called the real numbers. And what we mean by that is that not that there are fake numbers, but that there are numbers outside of the real numbers called complex numbers or imaginary numbers, right? Complex numbers have the little I. So we're not going to worry about those. What we want to talk about today are our real numbers. And really, we're not even going to focus on any irrational numbers. We're going to talk about the rational numbers. And so what I want you to see here in this Venn diagram is that we have these kind of subsets inside here, right? Our smallest subset are called the natural numbers. And they're called that because that's how we naturally start counting, right? We start with 1, and then we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to positive infinity. And so this notion of going from 1 to infinity, right, are our natural numbers. As soon as we then include 0, right, we see this purple box is just a little bit bigger. It includes all of these natural numbers and 0. And so this 0 is now considered a whole number. It's not natural, right? And I can put that in air quotes because we don't start counting at 0, right? So that's where it's called the whole number. Now, however, if we think about, oh, but and that's counting forward, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What happens if we started counting backwards? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now we're here, right? We came from the natural numbers out into the whole numbers, but now what if we keep going? -1, -2, -3. Now that brings us into these integers, right? Into a whole nother set of numbers, types of numbers. And so our integers go from negative infinity to positive infinity, and but only the whole numbers. So not no decimals, no fractions here. So the integers are the whole numbers, whether they're positive or negative, is what an integer means. And now whole numbers. But now, right, we keep saying, oh, we're differentiating between what we call whole numbers, right? Whether they're positive in the purple or negative, right, in the blue. And the blue, right, the integers are including all of the whole numbers that are negative and all of the whole numbers that are positive, including 0. But then we have this, now we can expand what we know as number, right? And I know that might be a foreign kind of way to say that, but that's how mathematicians would talk, right? When we first start counting, we only have this little subset, what we think about as numbers, but then we keep going and we expand it, right? Each of these boxes is getting bigger. And now we see this green box is the biggest on the left side here, because now we're expanding what we know as number to include all of those numbers in between, right? All of the positive numbers and all of the negative numbers and all of the numbers in between all of those whole numbers. And we illuminated or started thinking about this idea when we looked at our base 10 number system, right? We were going to the right, right, 10 times bigger as we moved to the left. I think I just said to the right. But now we want to include this idea of going, right, 10 times smaller or dividing by 10. Oops, that should be a division sign, right? And so all of these decimals, right, or fractions are how we kind of expand. We think about making what we think about numbers bigger, right? We expand it into our expand what we know as numbers. So that's where we get this green box here. And then we can expand even further when we include other operations like square roots and stuff, but we don't need to think about that now. So we're going to be just looking here at the rational numbers. But I wanted you to see kind of how we classify numbers and where they come from and what we mean by the different types of numbers, because we do have these different types of numbers.